not afraid.
You will be. You will be.
Damn you! God damn you all to hell!
Are you ready? Illuminati, you've come to take control.
If you've done nothing wrong, you've got nothing to fear.
Don't drink the Kool-Aid.
Alright, Travis Wingate. So, here we're going to go over Joseph Smith's Civil War prophecy, as it's been called. And Bruce R. McConkie says, Revelation and Prophecy on War, given through Joseph Smith the Prophet, December 25th, 1832. And I'm going over this because having gone over church history and learning some things that others have not learned, I now see in this those same types of things that are consistent with what Joseph Smith knew about our day. And so they weren't prophecies. If you've watched my other videos, William Morgan was the one who first came to Joseph Smith Sr. at his Freemason Lodge in Canandaigua, New York, and was arrested there, as Joseph Smith was the one who helped him flee the country to save his life, and then took over the writing of the Book of Mormon to encode the warning message of the threat to America that William Morgan was trying to publish. But Martin Harris was a little uncomfortable with the subject matter in the first 116 pages and destroyed it. And so Joseph Smith Sr. rewrote it using his Jewish mystical religion knowledge of Hebrew and the Jewish traditions through Jewish mysticism, and also his York Rites Freemasonry, which have the Knights Templar, which is different than the Scottish Rites of the degrees. And so section 45 verse 31 talks about knowing of the coronavirus which was to come. Now you can say that, well, you know, he knew Moses, and the last plague of Moses was a coronavirus, Travis. Yeah, exactly. That's what the enemy was doing. They're using the Bible and the prophecies of the Bible's last days against us. Albert Pike, specifically, in his letter to Giuseppe Mazzini, said, we will destroy Christianity in that Third World War and replace it with the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. Doctrine of Lucifer, which Mormons know very well is taking away of agency. How many of you want to take away the agency of others because you disapprove of what they do? Remember, there's 3 degrees of glory, which means we don't force people into the highest degree, and if they fail after we try to force them, then they get cast down to these other degrees, which are hell, not glory. See how you've twisted the doctrine? And so Joseph also knew the date of when this would occur, the starting of it. He knew the ending of when the New Jerusalem was supposed to be built, when the enemy is intent on completely destroying everything and having their new world order in place of the New Jerusalem. And that's in the first page of the Book of Mormon, where they say that Lehi has the sign of the Son of Man dream in the first year of the reign of King Zedekiah, who was the king of Jerusalem only because Babylon came in and conquered that year and removed the original king of Jerusalem and put Zedekiah on the throne as their puppet king. And so that's what we were to be looking for. Joseph Smith told us the Constitution would be in jeopardy one day. Many people know it as hang by a thread. His July 19th, 1840 talk goes over it. It was never published. Brigham Young didn't want it published. He calls out the whole 12 of being Judas, not just Brigham, in his 1939 scolding to just the 12 for wrongfully kicking out Thomas B. Marsh from the presidency and having Brigham Young exalted is the word Joseph used. And so, yeah. And so, yes, as you can tell, the current Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints by Brigham Young is the evil doctrine of Lucifer that Albert Pike was referring to. And so understand that when we get to verse 7. So it means more than you think. If you're still a believer in Brigham Young. And so it starts off, verily thus saith the Lord concerning the wars that will shortly come to pass. Remember, we're Latter-day Saints. This Latter-day Saint title isn't supposed to last for eternity. After the millennium, oh yeah, I'm a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. No, it has to end and a new title has to begin. That's when the restored church is accomplished in New Jerusalem, which is supposed to be a mountain city according to the 1840 talk, along with a Zion city, mountain city as well. And so also in 45, it's Doctrine and Covenants passage, and I don't think it is 40. Maybe I don't want to leave this. I know 87. I should be able to find it. Flee Zion sword. Only one. Yeah, 45. It's near the end. Let's see. And it shall be called New Jerusalem, a land of peace, a city of refuge, a place of safety for the saints of the Most High God. 67. And the glory of the Lord shall be there, and the terror of the Lord shall also be there, insomuch that the wicked will not come into it, and it shall be called Zion. And it shall come to pass among the wicked that every man that will not take his sword against his neighbor. And I'm seeing the results of the grand jury on Breonna Taylor's assassination in her own home. I mean, seriously? I mean, I can understand if the police got an anonymous call that was bogus. When Trump took office, they were all over the place. You hear in the news, SWAT was called out to the wrong home. Police were called out to the wrong home. They slaughtered the homeowner by accident. If that were the case, yeah, I could understand. But this wasn't the case. And then they covered it up. And so, yeah, this has bearing on the Civil War, or the 87 that we're going to get to. Let's see. Yeah, everyone who will not take his sword against his neighbor must flee unto Zion for safety. It doesn't exist yet, does it? It's not on the earth. Brigham Young has no intention, or the current church has no intention of fleeing anywhere. When I had my lawsuit filed against them and I had it summoned, or a waiver of summons was delivered to them, all of a sudden I'm hearing church news reports that help me question whether they were making a plan B to flee the country. That was interesting. But no, the church calls this place Zion. We're not leaving. This is the center stake of Zion. This is it. And the Brigham Young Temple at Salt Lake with the Star of Lucifer is right there at Temple Square, with the Eagle Gate with the Star of Lucifer as well. And so, and there shall be gathered unto it out of every nation under heaven. And it shall be the only people that shall not be at war one with another. It shall be said among the wicked, let us not go up to battle against Zion, for the inhabitants of Zion are terrible, wherefore we cannot stand. It's not here. We don't have it. It's not built. So, alrighty. Good. Just going back. Brought me right back. So Joseph Smith knew all this from William Morgan. He knew the dates when the first year of the assault on our nation with a puppet president would be put on the throne and turn it into a monarchy. He knew that that would be in the first year when the sign of the Son of Man occurs. And he knew that that was going to be when the year when the first of the 3 days of darkness, the sun shall be darkened. That was the first year, the first solar eclipse. And guess where it was? Yeah, America. Which I've been telling you, that's how we know America. Not Jerusalem, not Egypt, America. Those were metaphoric prophecies in the New Testament, Gospels, and in the Old Testament. It is for America. And so when you read over the prophecies now in the Old and New Testaments, and they talk about a place like Ezekiel 16. One of them is where it's either 16 or 17, and the other one is where it says that the sin of Sodom was not homosexuality, but neglecting the poor. So, I'm not going to look that up, that's not essential. But it has a parable, and so you can identify it when you go to the reference at either 16 or 17. It says, the Lord spake unto Ezekiel a parable. The parable is as such. And an eagle takes a twig from the top of the cedar of Lebanon and carries it all the way to a foreign land, a land of merchants, and there it grows like a, it doesn't say it, but that's how you know it. It's a cedar of Lebanon. So where in America would you find trees similar to size and stature of a cedar of Lebanon? Then you know where the city of merchants is and where the land of his nativity is to be. And then it says he moves to Michigan because it's great waters. Where in America are there great waters? The Great Lakes of Michigan. And so it even says he goes to the top of the mountain. Well, that's Utah. But that's not where he's born. He's not a born and raised Mormon. And Joseph Smith, I've gone over this with you. This guy who we're looking for, who everybody thinks is God, is not God. It's the Jewish Messiah. A man. A mortal man. And it's in the Book of Mormon, the learning of the Jews, language of the Egyptians. And Joseph Smith himself, a Mormon, shall lead the people, just like Moses. That's who the Jews are looking for. That's who our understanding of the latter-day Christ is. And so Jesus, in the Gospels, Joseph understood clearly, was not God. He was the prophesied man from the Mormon Church. So section 103, verse 16, if you're wanting to know that reference. So, beginning at the rebellion of South Carolina. I heard on the news, seriously? I was having buffering problems all day today. I guess the breaking news of Breonna Taylor's grand jury was causing everybody to flood to the news, making it difficult for me to hear, see, and watch. Alright, so South Carolina was not the origin of slaves in America. Jamestown was for black slaves. South Carolina, however, involving American slavery, was Native Indians. They were taken out of South Carolina and transported to Virginia as part of the other slavery that occurred. And so that was the first attempt, was to round up all the American Indians and have them be the slaves for the new colonists. And then it became economically feasible to bring in black slaves from Africa. So that needs to be understood as you're reading over this. He does not say blacks. He just says slaves in verse 4. Slaves shall rise up against their masters. So you can't assume that that's what he's talking about. You can't assume this is a prophecy from God and he's just giving revelation. He knew about what was going to happen from William Morgan. I can't make that any more clearer to you. And so, beginning at the rebellion of South Carolina, and there is no indication that it's going to be caused by slaves. Let me quickly check the history books to see where the Civil War got started. Where did the Civil War start? Fort Sumner, South Carolina. What do you know? So, he was right. The Illuminati were behind this. And how do I know the Illuminati were a part of this? Albert Pike. Come on, guys. When the 1826 anti-Mason movement occurred, the Illuminati, who had infiltrated the Scottish Rites Masons, thus causing the anti-Mason movement, because Joseph Smith Sr. Helped William Morgan flee the country, and the news reporter published that all Masonry together was responsible, and the anti-Mason movement was a big burning of all the Masonic temples. Only like less than, I think, around 10. The first number that came to my head was 6, but hundreds destroyed, burned with fire. The people of the colonies back then were furious in 1826 and 1827, and so a lot of history behind that. And so beginning at the rebellion of South Carolina, Joseph Smith knew. And so not only did Albert Pike plan ahead for World War I, World War II, and what we are going through right now, World War III, they also had planned the War of 1812, which William Morgan learned about, and then came to Joseph Smith, but then Joseph Smith stopped them in 1826. And I'm talking about senior, remember. Don't confuse junior with senior, as I leave out junior or senior when I talk about Joseph Smith. It was Joseph Smith who did give this, though the patriarch was senior. And what do patriarchs do? They lay their hands upon your head and they give you prophecy blessings for your life, remember? So are we sure it is junior, or are we not sure and it's actually senior? And we have scribes during this process, but I'm not... Nah. So we'd have to research each and every single section to identify who the scribes were, and who was in attendance and all that. But that we won't get into that. And so after that anti-Mason movement and caused the Scottish Rites and all Masons to go underground. Hiram Smith changed the spelling of his name to Hyrum from Hiram, which was Hiram of Biff. That spelling from Freemasonry rituals. And when the mood of the people finally abated, the Masons began again to slowly rebuild temples, but they didn't call them temples anymore. They now called them cultural halls and lodges. Still call them lodges, but cultural halls is rather than temples. And so everything changed after that anti-Mason movement in Freemasonry. But as is the pattern of this Illuminati group, they infiltrate an organization, and it's multiple organizations. They don't just stick with one and then, oh, they've been destroyed, we conquered the Illuminati. No, that's not how it works. The Illuminati itself was the original organization, but then Germany found out about them and hunted them down and chased them out as best they could. But what happens is they go underground, they disband. You have some who remain, as long as nobody knows about them and their affiliation. And then you have others who will go elsewhere. They'll branch out, and then they'll start in other groups. They'll infiltrate other groups, whether it be the Scottish Rites Lodges, businesses, government, other organizations or orders, political parties. They will infiltrate. We know they infiltrated the Nixon campaign because that's when the stars on the elephant turned upside down to be falling stars of the Illuminati. So we know that's when the Illuminati had infiltrated the GOP, and they were signaling to the world, to the other Illuminati, we're here, we're in, and it'll be this party that will be the one to overthrow America. As you well know about Nixon scandals, and you have loyalists of Nixon who were part of the Trumpites. And so Russia, the seal of Russia is the two eagles of the Scottish Rites. So that was where some had migrated to infiltrate Russia and take over Russia when the seal was established in 1917. That's when they let the world know, we're in, we're here, we're ready to go, to put the GOP puppet president on the throne of America in 2017. And so the Confederates of the South were another place where they migrated to from the North. Brigham and Heber obviously didn't migrate out. They were those who stayed behind because they were not affiliated or associated with the Masons. So they were able to stay behind. And then they found out who caused this, infiltrated their organization, rose up in prominence, like I said, in 1838, kicked out the leader, and then exalted Brigham Young to the presidency. Joseph Smith condemned him, he let everybody know, I had murdered the one who had caused this. I'm in, I'm here, let's get this going. We're the religion part of it now. Nauvoo Temple, if you're wondering what I'm referring to. And so the Confederates were infiltrated. They became part of this Illuminati. I have not seen on the Confederate flag the inverted pentagram. I would have expected to see it, but didn't see it, other than we know of their white supremacy. That's how we recognize them. And then they were involved with the assassination of Lincoln and the Civil War that commenced with the rebellion at South Carolina. It has nothing to do with slaves here. People complain and criticize, saying, oh, the Civil War wasn't about slavery. Okay, but where did you get slavery out of this? The wars will shortly come to pass, beginning at the rebellion of South Carolina, which can eventually terminate in the death and misery of many souls. Nowhere. Has nothing to do with blacks. Joseph Smith knew that. It was just all about an attack on America, to weaken it, soften it, get it into a position where their people could rise up in political office and take over the government in the various Senate seats and House seats. Because if you didn't know, after the Civil War, there again, Confederates were dispersed. Many remained behind, and they were bold enough to say, we're Confederate, we're proud, blood oath, soil, whatever, and Dixie living of southern Utah. But there were those who then became part of the KKK now, rather than Confederates. And so as KKK members, many of them knew each other as Confederates. It was just an easy transition to make, and nobody was really able to stop them, because the North really didn't go into the South to utterly destroy them, as the 1826 destruction was. And so there wasn't much of a need to migrate out from that. But yes, there were those who came to southern Utah to join the Mormon Church. And so, because they knew the signs, saw the signs, said, hey, these are our kind of people. The movie Contact, I saw that the other weekend. And they see the first radio transmission from Earth as the opening of the Olympics during World War II by Hitler. And so the one guy that worked for the government was freaking out. Oh boy, get the military back in here. We've got to clamp down on these Americans. So, yeah. And so it continues, the time will come that war will be poured out upon all nations, beginning at this place. So the Civil War will eventually lead to other wars. Like I said, that's how they work. They got beaten, so they migrated out. The time will come. Didn't say immediately, or at the time of this war, the war around the world will commence. It says the time will come that war will be poured out upon all nations. but beginning at this place, the Civil War, which means they will lose the Civil War and then do that branching out that I was talking about. So 3, for behold, the southern states shall be divided against the northern states. So yeah, he knew the Civil War. The southern states will call on other nations, even the nation of Great Britain, as it is called, and they shall also call upon other nations in order to defend themselves against other nations, and then war shall be poured out upon all nations. And so you can say, well, it didn't really happen that way. The French came in, Brits came in, I think Spanish. I can't remember all. But do we need to go over this? Because this is not the Civil War we want to be discussing. But this was the intention, is that they cause war upon war to rise from the ashes with a new world order. Causes of secession does involve slavery. Battle of Fort Sumner, South Carolina. Union blockade, Eastern, Western Theater, Trans-Mississippi, Lower Seaboard, Pacific Coast. They even established their president, which I'd never known about. That was kept back from me in my government history, American history classes. Trying to see if I can find if they list other nations getting involved. Video games, yeah, that's helpful for my historical knowledge. Destruction, emancipation, Union, Confederate surrenders, Sherman's march to the sea, Waterloo, da-da-da-da-da-da, Waterloo, ABBA, which I butchered, blockade runners. I believe from my vague recollection, the march to the sea was an attempt to surround them by those British troops that were supposed to be there and weren't, or didn't succeed, or something like that. Not going to go into it. There are plenty of civil rights buffs who are already screaming at me, no, it was this, Travis, and then this happened, and then that happened. So I'll let you guys deal it out. Okay, so now here we go. Pay close attention to the wording. Verse 4, and it shall come to pass. This is why the church, Bruce R. McConkie calls it revelation and prophecy. This is after the Civil War. This is not during the Civil War. This is not immediately following. And it shall come to pass also that the remnants who are left of the land will marshal. Oops, I've skipped down to 5. And it shall come to pass after many days. How many is many? At least years. Slaves shall rise up against their masters. This is not during the Civil War. That's already been discussed up to verse 3. Now we're talking about something else. Now we are talking about a time when slaves will rise up against their masters. Now, what kind of economy do we have? Oh, it's capitalism, Travis. It's where people who work hard become filthy rich, and then they employ other people who have the opportunity to make money so that they can then have a business of their own, right? The American dream, right? No. And then, of course, the Death Valley Days president. Born born in East LA, man, I was. Oh, that dude from Death Valley days. It was a hilarious movie. Alrighty, so yeah, Reagan economics, as it's been nicknamed, where it's supposed to trickle down when you give government money to the top CEOs and boards and investors of companies, rather than to the workers and the people. Yeah, what a brilliant concept. And so, yeah, employees are slaves. Their masters are the business owners. We haven't given up slavery. I saw on the news. I haven't gotten to it yet because I'm now 3 days behind on the news. Utah is going to have a vote in this election as to whether we, the people, believe we should take it off the Constitution of Utah. Utah is still a slave state. Dear God. But yeah, this is why. It's because Brigham Young is all a part of this. And so, I thought that was dealt with. I thought they caught it, they recognized it, and the legislature passed it and said, okay, we're taking out slavery. And I remember doing the videos, or at least the website posts, talking about they finally are stopping slavery, and apparently they didn't. Somebody must have stepped in and said, I think we should let the people of Utah decide whether we should stop slavery and take it out of our Constitution, even though the United States Constitution says you can't have it in your state, let alone in your Constitution. It must be immediately null and voided. And yet, oh no, it's up to us to choose. Free agency to choose whether we have slavery, to take away the agency of others. Oh dear God! But this is the way they think. This is the way they think they're confusing the issues. Dear God, it's not complicated. Who shall be marshaled and disciplined for war. So yes, Black Panthers. Remember them? They are marshaled and disciplined for war. So yeah, get your knee off our necks, officer. Breonna Taylor, say her name. But it's not just blacks, is it? He doesn't say blacks. This is Indians, Native American Indians. This is the poor. This is women who are in sex slavery to Brigham Young's polygamy and prostitution. He had a brothel, personal brothel. There were several brothels throughout Utah. God. And then immigrants and slaves. Chinese built our railroad system. You don't have to watch Shanghai Nights, or was that the first one? Or was which one? It was Jackie Chan and Owen Wilson. They did two movies. One was in China, and the other one was anyway. So, and it shall come to pass also that the remnants who are left of the land will marshal themselves. You mean sort of like police officers? And shall become exceedingly angry, and shall vex the Gentiles. Nope. These are the Black Lives Matter. They're exceedingly angry. Get your knee off our neck, officer. And shall vex the Gentiles with the sore vexation. The civil rights movement was also a vexing of the Gentiles, the white supremacists. So, yes, why can't you just leave them alone to have their own agency? Leave everybody alone. We're all human. What the hell is wrong with you guys? Oh, right, you worship Lucifer. You hate humanity. And thus, with the sword, and with blood, and by bloodshed, the inhabitants of the earth shall mourn, not just in America. And with famine, and here we go, and plague, he's bringing it up. He doesn't go into detail like he did in 45. He's just summarizing now. With famine, plague, earthquake, thunder of heaven, fierce and vivid lightning also. He's talking about the climate crisis. I can't remember what it's called. Yeah, that was also part of it. That was all part of their plan to destroy the world and start up with a new world order. Remember when the coronavirus, we were told to stay home, and Utah listened and obeyed for the most part? Still in that first morning when I went out running, I could smell the alcohol reeking from car after car driving home. I mean, people were doing their last partying, or they were saying, this is it, we're all going to die, I might as well go get drunk. But yeah, I mean, I was inhaling alcohol fumes. It was horrifying. I'm a lightweight. My DNA says I'm a lightweight. I've never drunk alcohol in my life. Cough syrup has been the only thing I have ingested alcohol. Mouthwash doesn't get ingested except in small amounts when I swallow after I spit it out. But no, I do not drink, and so even the smell of alcohol starts to make me nauseous. So yeah, here I am trying to run to clear out my lungs from the pollution and alcohol. But soon thereafter, pollution gone. Go back to 103 verse 14, 2 verses before 16. What disqualifies Mormons? Don't pollute your inheritance. Oops. And so, yeah, Joseph Smith knew all this. That this Illuminati would cause the climate crisis, the pandemic, the wars and the fighting, all designed to destroy so that they can rise up from the ashes with the New World Order. And the inhabitants of the earth will be made to feel the wrath, indignation, and chastening hand of Almighty God, till the consumption decreed hath made a full end of all nations. Do you understand that? No more nations. That's how bad it's going to get. Because once America falls, that will signal to the rest of the world, it's on. They have done it in America. It's on. They've already got their people in positions. It's already causing problems in China, in Belarus, in the one part of Spain, France, all over the world. They are in position. It's ready to go. So don't be fooled in thinking that it will never happen. This is the plan that they had planned way back from the beginning. And Albert Pike just only covered 3 wars. Do not be fooled that they are gone, that they have been destroyed and conquered and don't exist anywhere. They are everywhere. And so, at the cry of the saints. Who are the saints, Mormons? Yeah. And the blood of the saints. This is supposed to be God getting revenge. It's supposed to be that Zion and New Jerusalem, the mountain cities, get built so that people have a safety, a refuge. Because apparently the Illuminati are supposedly going to lose control. And they won't be as successful as they think they're going to be. because Joseph is trying to make the claim here that we're talking a complete and utter destruction that the Illuminati couldn't handle, and that they won't be able to rise up from the ashes with their planned New World Order. But if we do not do our part, that's why I warn you guys. The Book of Mormon gives us a number of scenarios that could happen. They don't just give us one, that everything turns out great, the Son of Man comes as promised and saves everybody and is a lone conqueror of the wicked. No, he can't do it alone. No king can be a king of a nation alone. Where's your crown, king? Nothing. Metallica. And so the concept is that by having this safety cities, that humanity can rebuild the world again and rebuild it correctly. Not as a new world order with slavery, but where everybody is equal, where you don't have a monetary system of economy. The Book of Mormon tells us about priestcrafts. Don't have priestcrafts. Don't labor for money. If you labor for money, you'll be destroyed, because the system cannot work. Monetary systems cannot work. They all fail. They all create inequality. You have to have a different system. And they tell you right there, work and labor for Zion. That's the system. It's not communism. Communism, you don't own property. You don't, it's different. And I've already told you how the system is supposed to work. But anyway. Wherefore, stand ye in holy places until the day of the Lord come. See? That's the time period he's telling us is when this is going to happen. And it shall come to pass after many days. How many days? The day of the Lord come. 2017. It's now. Joseph Smith knew this day. He knew the plans and the timing of the Illuminati. And he's warning us. Joseph Smith Sr. knew it. He warned. The Book of Mormon warns us. They give us the dates, if you know how to decode it. Because they couldn't just come right out and say it, oh, the Illuminati's going to destroy America. I wonder how many books that would have sold. Would it have even made it to the press? And so, yeah, now that we're 47 minutes in, I'm pretty sure I'm confident enough that all of you are gone. So I'm going to reveal some fun, secret information for those who are faithful listeners. Remember I told you guys that Monday is Yom Kippur, the Day of Atonement, and I did the whole video on explaining it, and how it has to be written on earth before it can be written in heaven, sealed on earth, sealed in heaven. Book of Life, Yom Kippur, atoning, the judgment of God. Well, I just got the letters back from the courts saying that my case is approved. I wonder if I can just hold off and have it turned in so that it is official on Monday. It's a confession that I have confessions, I have evidence of guilt that I'm planning to submit to the court as part of my complaint. Sealed on earth, sealed in heaven. We'll see.